Okay, so I want to show how to adjust the nut so that you can get better action, better intonation, and in my experience, anything coming from the factory usually needs a little bit of refinement to this nut. They're usually a little high to stay on the safe side so that the strings don't buzz, and a handful of other things. But the consequence when the nut is up too high is that it takes a lot of force to grip these down towards the bottom of the neck. And what that ends up doing is actually putting your intonation out, because the harder you have to push down, the sharper the notes become. So some things you're going to want to do before you make any adjustments to the nut is you want to make sure you've got the strings on and they're at the right tension. We're actually going to use the strings to figure out how to lower the grooves or the saddles here at the nut so that we can minimize the amount of force required to push these down. And I think you'll see that it'll actually make improvements to the intonation and a lot easier to play too. So just to demonstrate here, let me just show you what's going on. So I'm gonna work on the G string. Actually, no, I'm gonna work on the A string. So first thing, I want to get it in tune. Okay. And you can see I'm using a little strobe here. And this applies to guitar or bass guitar, electric, acoustic. Same principle applies. So I want to get it in tune, and I want to see if this nut is high, if the groove is too high, this should be pretty sharp. So you can see that first fret, actually it's up there. Okay, if I go to the 5th fret, my intonation is clearly a little sharp, but it's really noticeable down here. So how do you get that? And how do we make that a little more playable? So there's a few techniques out there that I've seen. This technique I'm going to show you, I think, is the easiest and most foolproof. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bit of tension off this, just enough so I can pull this string out and move it over. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a pencil to mark the inside of this. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I want to make sure I'm lowering the groove so that I'm not, so that I'm angling sort of downward towards the string slope where it would go to the tuning peg. If you don't cut it downwards, then you can really screw up the nut. So the vendors out there, Amazon, they sell these things. I've tried these. These are garbage. They clog up, they get dull super fast. So in my experience, best tools for cutting and fine-tuning the nut is jeweler's files. And they're kind of shaped. Some of them have like more circular, or more like sort of football shapes from the downward end. You don't want to use a flat file because you don't want to create square grooves in here. So I'm going to pick one of these guys here that you know, is about the same size as the string, and I'm going to start cutting and I'm going to make sure that I start seeing the removal of the pencil mark on this side of the nut first. Make sure that it's okay to take a little extra off the back side, but you want to find that space. You can see the pencil is starting to disappear at the back. See, I can get a good idea of like what my angle should be, and I do little by little until that pencil mark is pretty much gone. And then I know I've taken off just a little bit. Yeah. So now what? Blow that off. Put it in the slot. And so how do you know when you're getting close? Well, there's a couple ways. The way that I think is really the best way to do it is to put your finger down on the fret at the second fret and check for a gap. So you can tell, you can hear it actually, there's a little bit of a gap. Okay? When there's no gap, it doesn't make the same sound. There's a little tapping, you know? And you can see it. I don't think you can see it with the camera, but I've already done this one. I've already carved this. But basically what you want to do is get it so that there's just a slightest gap between when you hold this down so I can see, I can push down on that and I can hear it tap, which means that the height of the nut is higher than this. It has to be, because this is a straight line. So I'm going to take a little more off. Not too much, because it's pretty close. And again, I'm going to use my pencil so I know when to stop. And make sure my angle, I'll start by taking more of the back off. I'll cut through that. And when I see that line disappear, I know I've taken a little off. Notice I just do it in small amounts, 3 or 4 strokes. Okay, it's a faint line. Okay, drop it back in, hold that. I can tell that's really close, and which is exactly what I want. You can hear the difference. Actually, this guy's pretty close. May not have to adjust that one. That one's pretty good too. Just gonna check it from the side. I can see that it's really close, which is what you want. You may have seen the old guitars that used to have like a 1 fret, which I actually think is a brilliant idea. Basically, the nut ends up just keeping the strings from moving this way. But that other fret, assuming you have a curvature in your neck, it's always going to sit a little bit higher than the this fret here. And that's basically what you're trying to approximate, is you're trying to get the saddle depth at the nut to be just a hair higher than this fret. So yeah, that's how I do it. I do it little by little, and I'll tune it back up, and we'll see if that made a difference in the intonation. So we'll get it close. So it's just, okay, so there we go. So you can see what a difference that made, just that little bit. My intonation is already better, and the playability is like, yeah, like I've already got much better intonation. So yeah, the key is to basically use the fret line, just like you're just trying to get this fret level the same height as that, and you know you're getting close when you're just sitting over top. You can use this on guitar, bass, whatever. I find it works the best. Anyways, I hope this helps. For this, like I said, you can get jeweler's files to do this work. You see these on Amazon, don't waste your time. They're useless. And that's that. Enjoy. As usual, comments, criticisms, whatever other ideas you might have.